so much for helping me with this.
Yeah, no worries. This looks really cool. What are we doing here? What's this?
Oh, so this is a cathodic protection system, and what I want to do is deploy a sensor to measure the health of the cathodic protection system. And because it's like powered by the corrosion itself, once you deploy it for 20 years, it's not a problem.
Okay. So how are you going to upload all this data from these sensors?
So I have deployed like a LoRa radio in the system, but because there is no LoRa network available to me, I'm just going to like deploy my own hotspot.
But these electronics themselves, right? You mentioned 20 years. The electronics are not going to last that long, will they?
Well, even if the electronics don't last for that long, I can always come and swap out like the sensor, right? If you look at the old telephone lines, we could always change to a cordless phone. All we needed was a reliable network. So all we got to do is that as long as we have a reliable backend available for our systems, we can deploy for as long as we want.
You know, I agree with you about the reliable backend problem. There was all these IoT sensors that were deployed by all of us for so many years, and we used 2G cellular radios, and recently the 2G network was rolled back, and now all these sensors became totally useless.
I mean, I do agree with you, right? Because the only person who cares about these deployments is me. And if the city could provide me such an infrastructure, it would really simplify my deployments.
Hey, wait, but how many of these do we have to deploy today?
Well, to make it a real smart infrastructure on all the test points, so that's about several hundred.
Oh, God. But, like, I mean, come on. I mean, in the real world, is there we don't really have deployments with several hundred sensors out there, right? So why are we bothering?
Oh, but there are these real life deployments in San Diego right now. Come with me, I'll show you where they are. So if you look over here, we have these like smart street lights being deployed all over San Diego. We have about 3,000 of them deployed, and they have various sensors on them which help us to like track parking availability, capture longitudinal environmental trends, and also help in law enforcement. And they do so because they have this huge backend where all this data is sent, and where like trace analytics are carried out on them, and it provides better services to its citizens. But they cost up to like millions of dollars.
Okay, but you just said that they have like this backend already set up, and it sounds like a reliable backend is already in place. So I don't get it. What's the problem? Why can't you just hook up all your sensors to this backend? Like, why are we worrying about our own infrastructure?
Well, the problem is that I cannot connect my devices to their infrastructure because it's completely closed off.
Wait. So are you telling me that you are also going to be doing another sort of smart infrastructure deployment completely ad hoc, which like this one is also going to benefit the city, but we need to do completely separate thing altogether? That makes no sense whatsoever. Yeah, that's totally ridiculous. We should go talk to our advisor about it.
What? Hey guys, how'd it go?
Hey, so the sensors make sense.
Yep.
And we see over here in San Diego that they have spent millions of dollars for all this infrastructure. So why are we deploying it on hotspots again?
I really wish we didn't have to. This infrastructure problem has been plaguing wireless systems and wireless sensor networks basically since their inception. Do you think we could brainstorm and figure out a couple of principles that would make it so that I can get back to just building cool and interesting sensors and we can use infrastructure in the world?
Yeah, sure, we can do that.
Yeah, we should think about it.
Awesome.
So let's look at the components of the infrastructure itself.
Yeah.
And we first have the devices. How would we want to have these devices in a very long-lasting infrastructure? We want them to be require no human attention as much as possible, right? And we want them to not rely on any specific instances of infrastructure, but rely on the infrastructure as a whole. Then we have your gateways,
Right.
And gateways main purpose is to provide connectivity to all our devices.
Right.
So that's where it becomes crucial that like gateways act only as routers that provide coverage to our devices,
Yeah.
and are not tied to providing connectivity to only certain devices made by certain manufacturers, as is the case right now. If we truly want to make it applicable to all devices around us.
Yeah, that actually, you're right about that. And there's this whole. I was also thinking about the whole backhaul thing, how the data is uploaded to the cloud, and that backhaul network. One thing we should definitely have is that the backhaul network's life should be way longer than any possible sensor. It's like the backhaul network should be there for 50 years. It's your telephone network that's always there. We were thinking of this, right? It should always be there. And more importantly, like one of the things that I always felt about this backhaul, right, and I was reading up about this, is that these cities can easily deploy these backhaul and maintain them for several years without any problem. There's always this bit of concern about cities like, oh, we are probably not capable of doing that. But the truth is there's tons of cities out in the entire US doing it already. So even small cities should not really be worried about taking on the onus of deploying their own fiber or deploying their own small-scale wireless networks. That should totally be done.
Right, and I do agree with you, right? And also on top of it, I really believe that like users that deploy these sort of sensors should also have the option of vertical integration. So even if the infrastructure disappears, they should have the ability to deploy new infrastructure without deploying any of the individual devices themselves, and still support all the sensors and devices that have been deployed.
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah, and that totally makes sense.
That totally makes sense. Okay, that totally makes sense. Finally, to conclude, we are at a crossroads where we see smart infrastructure being deployed in different cities at scale all around us. And now we want to ask this question to you, how we as technologists can impact policy change to actually lead to sustainable and possibly century-scale smart infrastructure.
Follow him, Alex. Be in the bear.
Oh, the answer over here.